if you're alive, you have something worth to say. Because I believe that God created you, Xander, with your context, with your story. You've been through good stuff. You've been through things that maybe were not good. Like everyone else have their own experiences and journey. And from the moment that you wake up and you're breathing, God is saying you have something worth to share with the world.
Hi, I'm Xander, and this is the Days Before You podcast. Last season, we talked about getting over the fear of sharing our faith. You know, how to push past the nerves and self-doubts. But once you do get past that fear, then what? I'm a communicator. I know that when you share a message, it's not just about what you say, but how you say it. You can't just throw words at people and hope something sticks. You have to look for ways to make your message compelling to your audience. In today's world, where there are so many tools for communication, we have more opportunities than ever to share our faith. We have more opportunities, but also more challenges. Like, how do we make sure our message isn't just adding to the noise? How do we engage with people in ways that actually draw them in? I'm honored to have with me Pablo Fernandez. He's an associate professor at the School of Journalism and Communication at Southern Adventist University. I personally had the privilege to have several classes with Pablo, and one of the classes he teaches is actually media ministries. In fact, this episode, as well as a few others from this season, have been made in part with the support of his media ministries class. Pablo, hello, welcome. Thank you for coming today.
Hi, Xander. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for inviting our class to be part of this beautiful project.
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun. It's great having you guys here, and I hope that your students are able to take and learn from this experience.
We always take every experience is a new opportunity to put in practice, to develop new things, and the beauty is when you go to different places and see how each one, or either organization or people involved, are finding their own ways of communicating the message that we have. And this is a beautiful setting, beautiful show. So I'm just honored to be here at this program.
Okay, well, thank you. It's nice to have you here. So let's start this conversation with just a simple question. Basically, what are some key principles in effective communication?
I love, and my students know about this, to drag or bring communication principles from the Bible. And we have a lot of spiritual, lessons from the Bible, but sometimes we miss some of these other technical sides of interesting things. One of the stories that I love about the principles or the basic foundations of communication is the story when God shows up to talk with Moses in the burning bush. There's so many lessons on that story. But from a communication perspective, we have this supreme divine being, God, coming down to earth. He manifests himself in this burning bush. And when Moses sees that, he approaches the bush, he gets closer. He was curious about it. But the first thing that God says to Moses is not go to get these people out of Egypt. He says Moses, and he's inviting Moses to come in. And he says, take your sandals off because this place is holy. From a communication principle, what God is doing here is God is creating common ground. God understanding who he is and his, characteristics and as, his persona and how he can manifest and how he decides to manifest and connect with human beings. Now he comes to earth, but he transforms this place into a holy place. So it's a little bit of God and a little bit of Moses, and then invites Moses to jump in to have that conversation with him. And I think the first principle that we need to understand about communication is that communication always finds itself more effective when we create common ground with the person that we're connecting with, which requires two things. First, you need to understand where you're coming from. Understand what your principles, understand what your values, understand what are your hobbies, what are the things that you like. How do you like to spend some time? What are some of the things that you like to do, or how do you like to connect? If it's a spiritual matter, how do you understand God and what you know about your spiritual life? But the second thing is to understand the other person. Because each one of us, we might be even neighbors. We might be even, twin brothers or sisters, but we are different. And each one has a different perspective on life and experience of life. Mm-hmm. So when we can appreciate each other, then we are more equipped to create common ground like God did to have the conversation with Moses.
Yeah. No, that's really nice. Yeah, because that otherwise, how else are we supposed to understand each other?
Exactly.
Yeah. So going off that, how do we build that essential foundation with other people?
Well, it comes back to these two principles. So you understand yourself and you understanding the other person. Now, the next element that we can bring to this equation is to understand what the context is. Okay, so in the evening, God calls Abraham and said, "Look at the stars." He's using the context to communicate and connect a message with the subject. So when we are having a conversation with someone, it's important to understand, where we are. What is the time of the day? Is the conversation we're having at 6 a.m. or like 11 p.m.? We will use different languages. We're going to use different pace, even different volume. How long are we going to talk? I remember when I was a little young and getting, high school age, my mom and my dad would put breakfast and they were like, and my mom liked to have a conversation because I'll be busy after that, going to school and several activities. So she wanted to use that time of the day to have the whole conversation of the day with me. And it's like, Mom, it's 6:30. Can we talk later, please? Do you have experiences like that? You have certain times of the day that you feel like you're more, let's say, in favor of having a conversation other times that we're not?
No, yeah, of course, all the time. I feel like we have a coworker here, and I feel like he always comes at the worst time because I feel like every time he comes up and he wants to talk, I'm like, I'm so tired. I just want to go to lunch. I just want to eat, and he just wants to talk. So I'm like, it makes sense what you're saying.
So there is this part of you understanding the context of the moment, understanding the context of the other person, but that comes like using your example, like. I bet that many times you put some effort, right?
It's hard, but yeah.
Okay, you know what? Okay, let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
So it does require intentionality, because if not, people does not live life to please you. Just because you don't feel to talking to someone, it doesn't mean that you're never going to talk to the person. There will be times that you're going to find yourself, okay, you know what? I'm going to put effort, and maybe I might not have even 30 minutes to talk, but I do have literally 15 minutes, so I'm going to manage this conversation, even maybe be proactive. Hey, I would love to give you more time, but I only have 15 minutes. Can we have this conversation now? So, yes, let's do it. So then we create a safety boundary that help us manage the context together, especially when maybe we're not feeling much like it, okay?
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah,
because, obviously conversations are taxing, like having to pay attention, having to, actively listen to the person. It takes energy, it takes time, and it takes effort to put into it.
Yeah.
So how do we ensure that, if when we are communicating to somebody else, that we're crafting it in a way that's easier for somebody to comprehend, or to take off the load off that person, at least a little bit? How do we ensure that is possible, if at all? I don't know. I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah. So communication is a system. It's not a direct system that goes one way. Like you follow this recipe and 100% check. You ensure the communication was effective. No. Communication is a cycle that never stops. It happens all the time. Right now, while I'm talking and you're listening, you are communicating to me in the way that you look, in the way that your body reacts, in the way that you breathe.
Nodding, stuff like that. Yeah.
Exactly. I feel like, too boring, too long. So we are communicating all the time. So as you are sharing the message, you also need to be aware that the person is responding at the same time and is communicating with you, either through silence or maybe through eye contact, through gestures, through checking the phone while you're talking. It's like, okay, what this person is communicating, right, with that. So we need to understand that the communication first, as I said, is non-stopping. It's happening all the time. Now, to ensure that it's effective, it's a hard task because, again, it's not based on a checklist, but it's into your assessment of how this person is responding to the message that you're sharing. Many times, especially when we're nervous, I don't know if you remember the first time that you were asking somebody out. Right?
Yeah.
You're like, what should I say? Or maybe you ask somebody like, hey, I don't know what to say. It's a little awkward. So you focus so much in the words that you will say. So you're thinking more and putting a lot of energy into your part when you are talking. But what if you split that energy into, let me understand, okay, I'm going to say it and you're going to prepare the best way you're going to say it, and you're going to propose, or you're going to ask, or you're going to, be in the way that you think it's the best and most appropriate for that time. But then you split the energy. Let me try to understand, see how this other person is reacting. Is this person, when I say hi, is excited to talk back to me? I say, hey, what are you doing today? Is the other person like feeling like is anxious because it's too busy, stressed? Yeah. And then, or just like is starting showing curiosity, like, oh, I don't know, why does he or why does she want to know about that? So that's the element that sometimes many of us miss, especially when we put so much effort in your part when you're talking, but you're not putting effort into understand what the other person, how the other person is reacting. Maybe the other person wants to go out with you, but you just, asking out in the day that is, she's or he's studying for an exam on the next day. Yeah. And I would love to, but I don't have the time. I stress about it. Like, oh, terrible time. Like the example they said with your coworker, right? Mm-hmm. So is splitting that effort into paying attention to the other person, will definitely ensure not that the communication is effective, but at least will help you understand better how the other person is responding or reacting to the communication that is in front of this person.
Yeah. Well, that's fair. Like you're paying attention to those like little clues can make a big difference in how you maybe change your approach. Yeah. But I feel like that switching perspective just a little bit. Yeah. We're talking about people like conversations face to face. Yeah. But there's a lot of communication that happens digitally. So when it comes to like social media, you knew I was going there.
Yeah. There you go.
When it comes to like social media and you don't get those immediate responses, like how do you ensure like communication is effective? Going back to the main question, with when there's no people there, it's just a computer, your phone, or whatever.
It's difficult because at times it could be very frustrating. And other times it can give you like a sense of success. And you think like, this is great. And maybe it got great because there was something funny out of there that for some reason it became the specific timing and became like a viral. But just because something became viral doesn't mean that successfully communicate the message they originally intended to do. When we are approaching digital communication, I think one of the challenges, or the biggest challenge that we have, without even getting to social media yet, is texting. Because you say something and you're looking at this text, based on how you're feeling in that moment and how you experience your day, and you don't have any context of how the person is responding. You just have words. And many times they're this funny, sometimes not even funny, a little sad, or even arguments that happen because of texting that will, either malinterpret it, or like people misunderstood what had happened, or just like the auto editing, kind of like throw a curveball here, right? So that's a clear example of when you get communication with minimum context can easily lead into miscommunication. Now, when we go to your example about, in terms of social media, let's say that you want to post something in your career story, or you're going to X and write something there, or Threads, or whatever social media, or people like to use, you are dealing with people that people that know you, and people that you don't know and doesn't know you.
Yeah, it's a lot of unknowns.
There's a lot of unknowns, and each person is receiving that message on their own journey, on their own context. Is there a recipe that you can please everybody? No. So in situations like that, the best thing you can do is be you. If we take this, let's say, from a spiritual side, right? You don't have Christianity. If you follow Christ, you can become a Christian. So that faith internalizes and becomes who you are. Sometimes and I'm guilty as charged, okay, as we do, and others might relate with this situation. You try to become something online that you are not. So if you cannot understand the other person's context, or you have limited access to the information, to the other people, I'm assuming this is more like a one-on, like a personal social media situation. It's not
Yeah.
like a company that does target
Yeah.
audience and have metrics and
Yeah.
kind of
Well,
have a better sense. But it's more
Yeah.
like at the personal level, right?
Well, yeah, it could be either personal. I'm thinking in the context of either personal or maybe like a small church, or like somebody's trying to help a small church Instagram like grow and stuff.
Okay,
For
good.
example.
All right, good. That's another good point. Let's finish this personal, and then we can move to
Yeah.
the church if you want to. So, in the personal level, understand your context first, who you are. High chances the people that are following you, be either because you know them, or you know them and they know you, or maybe you don't know them but they know you, is because they resonate with who you are as a person. So communicating from your context might relate with them. You might not understand all the nuances of how you relate to them, but that's one thing that you can use in your favor to enhance the potential of effectiveness of that communication. Now, obviously, another interesting tip in this case is like, can you be intentional in created situations through the content that you can create to learn more about your audience? Simple thing that you might see on some influencers, like ask me anything. You might see that on some stories, like ask me
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
and then people start like sending questions and the person responds. So it gives a sense of like what my audience is thinking about. If they could ask me anything, what they're asking for.
Yeah.
What's your favorite song? What do you eat today? What are you doing this weekend? Or if it's a more famous, person type of celebrity, maybe they're trying to understand more of their personal life. What are some of your hobbies? And what's the first time that you got an F in school? any random things.
Yeah.
So that could start giving a sense of what aspects of your life that are showcased in social media people are relating with, are connecting with, and that could be doors because they might have similar experience or they care about those things that you care. Now, applying that to the church is the same principle. It's a funny situation because a lot of organizations use social media to drive their business, right? A lot of sales, a lot of marketing. At the point that, I don't know if you feel like this, Xander, but for me it's annoying. Like I go on Instagram and every 2 posts, there's a sponsor post.
Mm-hmm.
Or like
Yeah.
every 2 or 3 stories and there's a sponsor story.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Gets tiring. Yeah.
So there is a lot of marketing done and target marketing and the whole thing. But as an organization, how can you communicate, even if you do commercial work, or if in this case, since you said in a church, let's say a more nonprofit base or a religious entity. As an organization, there is a big benefit if you can behave like a person. This does not mean find somebody in your church that is very passionate about TikTok and this person becomes the church on TikTok.
Yeah.
Okay? That's a very responsible way of doing it. Definitely that person should be part of the team and maybe even be the person in charge because has the passion and maybe has the calling for that. But it's not just like throw the keys to somebody and like you do what you think is good and great,
Yeah.
But it means that the organization should in some ways embrace the values that a person would embrace on digital communication. So, for example, what do you share, for example, in your social media, Xander?
And my personal one, or
I don't know. Okay. Oh, that's good. So you
Yeah.
have more than one. Would you like to, if you can share a little bit? Yeah.
yeah, well, on my personal one, I usually just post like on my stories or like my actual feed is like pictures that I've taken.
Okay.
A lot of the pictures that I take from like protests or from like journalistic type stuff.
Okay. So there's
Yeah.
a mix of hobbies, subjects that matter to you, and also professional work.
Yeah.
Okay. If you on my is all very family oriented. There's some like work with the students and things like production that we've done, but 90% will be doing something with my kids or with my wife or like a family moment. Okay, so those are the values or the principles that I decide to cherish through social media and celebrate. Organizations also have values. Organizations have mission statements. Organizations have subjects that matter. Like you mentioned, that protest is a subject that matters for you, maybe from a professional perspective or from a social perspective. Many times, organizations hide their values and they just go for, like in the case of a church, a Bible verse, a picture of a worship setting, or maybe a snip from the sermon of the pastor. That all those things is very valuable. But if they're missing the personal component, it's hard to somebody understand why do you exist.
Yeah.
And coming back to the why and the reason of what you do in the case of an organization is crucial to help an audience that maybe don't know you, or maybe just heard about you, or just because there was a sponsor, just, find you, spontaneously, start having a sense of who you are and why you're there, and if those values relate with them.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, that can be tricky. I mean, I feel like speaking a little bit more technically, one of the ways you express that personification on social media is, following trends, using actual people to create skits or whatever's quote unquote popular on social media. So how, and if that's one of the ways to do it, to be more personable, how do you ensure that your core beliefs are still aligned and still represented, even though some of these trends might go against your beliefs?
Oh, that's a good point. All right. So something very important that we all know this, but maybe we just don't, let's say, make a statement or put it like, okay, this is it, right? You have, I'm not going to say 5 minutes. You have 30 seconds. A commercial. You're watching a show, you're watching a game, there's a commercial break. What most of the people do? They pull their cell phones.
Yeah.
But if that's not your case, good for you. But I do that, okay? Yeah. And that's not good for me. But I put my cell phone, and it might open my email maybe, or I just open maybe Instagram or TikTok, or you just see something. Most of us go to media in whatever form it is for entertainment. Okay? That's part of how society is.
Yeah.
And media and digital media will provide us entertainment because that's what we're looking for, offer and demand, right? So, regardless if the audience knows you or doesn't know you, they are going to these places where they might find you because they were looking for entertainment. Okay? Now, the source of entertainment could be many things. It could be pictures of dogs and cats, goats doing gymnastics, dance videos, other elements, politics, whatever are different topics that might be trending. Some of them might be just pure comedy. Other elements, like you said, they might have some core principles or values that you might not be in agreement with. Okay? But people have been using those things or trending sounds or music that become popular. I remember, my family and I, coming from Brazil, we remember a time that there was a song that was a trending song, very popular. And a lot of American kids, even parents and daughters and sons and teenagers doing this little dancing with that song. And I was just looking at my wife like, these people don't have a clue or the lyrics of this song and how inappropriate they are. And they're doing these videos with their family members like, no, that's wrong, To the point that it's funny if you understand it, but you can easily, following these trends that you're saying, you can find yourself in some interesting situations, right?
Yeah. Well, the same thing happened to us. Remember we posted a TikTok the other day, and I put a sound on it, and I listened to the first few seconds. Oh, this will work, and put it on, and like an hour later, some of the comments were like, "Why would they put that song? Why did they use that song? It makes no sense." And I listened to the whole thing. I was like, "Oh, that's a little inappropriate." And we had to go and delete it because it doesn't going back. It doesn't align with our core beliefs. So we just had to delete it, move on, and I guess now we got to be more careful.
Exactly. So it does require in this case to you have a little bit more scrutiny and go a little bit beyond what's popular. Now, in that sense, we don't need to demonize all what is trendy, everything everything is bad. Actually, there are opportunities. There might be opportunities that you might want to miss.
Okay.
Like maybe this song or the other song, I'm okay with missing this one, okay? But if people are coming to the internet, if people are coming to these digital devices to have fun, and this particular situation, element, sound, or animal, or whatever is the thing that is being trendy, this could be an opportunity that maybe you can open door to expose who you are or present who you are to somebody that doesn't know you. You're not compromising your beliefs. You're not going to get your sermons, the sermons pastor, and make it comedy and put a funny sound, and then just, creating a whole mess in terms of communication. But you could create scenarios where in marketing or digital marketing we call like little carrots. You just create little carrots that you throw there, and that people might like, oh, let me see what's up, and they just buy it, and it's an opportunity to maybe they be introduced to your page, introduced to your content, introduced to other, to other content that could lead them into spiritual growth. You don't go to the supermarket and you bring a baptism rope and then you try to get somebody to get baptized in the supermarket, right?
Yeah, no.
But maybe you saw somebody there that is trying to get something high and they don't get it, and you go and you get in help, or somebody that is carrying a bag that is very heavy and you're just giving a hand, and then that could lead into a conversation that could lead into a follow-up conversation later. That could lead, well, maybe you guys meet, for do an activity, or maybe you have kids at the same age and you get a play date. That could lead into maybe a VBS. It's a process. So it's interesting because as we understand social media is like a playground. You're going to this playground when everybody's having fun or going there to have fun, and how can you mingle intentionally in a way that people can connect with you, that you can connect with them where they are, and intentionally, slowly and carefully, you can start bringing them into Jesus' feet.
This goes back to like that slow time in the relationships and building that foundation to bring them to the ultimate goal of bringing them to Jesus as well.
Yeah.
So for somebody who's just beginning and interested in wanting to express themselves, as you said earlier, like them being them, and on social media or whatever platform to express their own religion, what should they expect going forward into the social media landscape?
Well, religion is an interesting and at the same time polarized topic. So it reminds me when in the teaching and in the teaching world, or at least in my context, you have something that is called a class evaluation. At the end of the semester, the students have the opportunity to fill out a survey and say how much they like or dislike the class. Okay, so if you just leave it open like that, hey, if you like the class, would you mind giving feedback? The students that will fill out the survey will be those that really like the class and those that really do not like the class. And that's not a fair assessment because you're just dealing with extreme.
Yeah.
Right? If I go right now and I post something religiously, high chance my mom, my grandma, they really, whatever you do, they're gonna like it and support you. Oh, that's so great, thank you, whatever, amen. They're gonna support you. You have your high supporters. But you're gonna spark some haters as well. Okay, in whatever polarized topic, in religion can be one. Okay. It's important to understand that these are not the only people that have been exposed to your content. Idea, you want to cultivate a culture, a digital culture, when you generate more response, and that response is throughout the whole scope, right? You have the super supporters, you have some of the haters there because they will be there, okay? But you also have those that maybe want to engage into a conversation, which that's where it starts having more value, because then people are trying to engage with you. Digital communication, even when we're posting a story or a picture or some saying, many times it feels like a one way, and actually is an opportunity to be a back and forth.
Yeah.
Now, a good example of back and forth, why TikTok is so funny for so many people. It's not the content, are the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you just go, for those that like TikTok, it's very often that when you go to the comment sections, people say, I'm just here for the comments, right? Because that's where people are engaging with the content and discussing and having fun. Usually it's more from the entertainment side of things, right?
Yeah.
Or people being creative of how to respond to that. So it's important for us to understand in terms of expectation that it's very rare that you're going to put something and suddenly it will have like a huge success. At the same time, there is a potential to you receive some hard critique. And unfortunately, even at times from people on your inner circle. Maybe you're going to receive some pushback from people that you know. And those things hurt. So similar to what I mentioned about the church or why you do what you do and why you do this ministry, ask yourself, and even in prayer, why I'm doing this, why I'm feeling compelled to share my faith through digital media. And let the why drive you, especially when you feel discouraged, especially when you receive critique. There might be some constructive criticism there, and even maybe people express it in the wrong way. They could have better words to maybe help you do your content better. But we need to be open to growth. And it's a common trend when you start seeing people that, let's say, build a YouTuber or an influencer career, they did not happen overnight. There might be certain content that became viral overnight, but that's not the recipe for success. The common trend is that they've been posting this for 4 or 5 years every single day. And it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of mornings that you don't feel like waking up to do this. It takes a lot of, patience to deal with the criticism, or with just like understanding the only people that are liking and sharing this is just your mom and your grandma or whoever is your big supporters, and you're slowly building your audience. So start with the why. Be patient, okay, and keep and learn from your experience. And regardless if it's a one person that feels called to do it from a personal perspective ministry, or if it's a church, if it's an organization. And be intentional in how you can build an engagement, opportunity. If it's a church and you're just like putting some pictures or live streaming a service, and there's no opportunity to engage with those people that are connecting with you, you're just missing a chance. And I think that's the big thing that social media can give us, is the chance to engage with people that we know, that know us, or people that we don't know.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, so it's like, as you're saying, it's a lot of social media. Takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of work, and maybe it's not for everyone. They're like, everybody has different talents. So maybe this type of work might not be for everybody, but for some people it could be. But in that case, how do you ensure, or how do you know if what you're saying is actually worth saying and expressing to others?
If you're alive, you have something worth to say. Because I believe that God created you, Xander, with your context, with your story. You've been through good stuff. You've been through things that maybe were not good. Like everyone else have their own experiences and journey. And from the moment that you wake up and you're breathing, God is saying you have something worth to share with the world. And sometimes we might waking up and we don't feel like I have nothing to say. But God says, you don't need anything. The same way he said to Moses, it's not about how you feel about yourself, about your language or your leadership skills. It's about me, that I'm with you. I'm going to be with you. And it's easier said to done to do this, okay? Because, mental health is a big problem. Many of us go through different phases of life. And the sense of worth, especially on a digital world when we're comparing with each other all the time, it has been significantly affected. But I don't have a single doubt that if you're breathing today, you and me, we have something worth to say. So go and say it.